Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio today. Welcome if you're new here. Today, as you already saw, we are doing a painting of Moraine Lake in Banff National Park. This is one of the most iconic lakes in Alberta and in Canada and maybe even in the world. So thank you for joining me here today. We're going to go through, I'll teach you how to paint this one step by step. The majority of the paints I'm going to be using today are all Liquitex basics. I wanted to use kind of just a student grade paint for these ones. And I'll use a few different brushes here. My main brushes are going to be these flat brushes. We will also be using a fan brush here, and for some of the canoes there we will use just one of these little detail brushes, 000 round brush. You're also going to need something to wipe off your brushes with. I just use a mason jar with water. Mine's a little bit dirty still from the last painting, but I'll clean it out as we go here. And then to wipe off the brushes or dry them, I just use old clothes that are cut up, and then up somewhere to put your paint. I've got a little palette here, and yeah, I think that's it. We are going to go from there. So when you're painting nature, again, I guess I'll start this with a little I don't know what the word is, but this is just my style of painting. This isn't the only style of painting. This isn't just the only right way. This is how I do it. I hope you learn something from it. Don't feel like you always have to paint this way. If something else works better for you, go for that. This is just how I do it, and take everything with a grain of salt if you'd like. So we're gonna start with the sky, work our way to the foreground. I just find that helps with the layers, so you have nice smooth transitions, so you're not trying to paint around something else that's already there. You can just go a little bit further on each of your layers, and then you're just painting over top, and then you're good to go. So like I said, we're going to start with the sky, work our way to the foreground. For the sky, I'm just going to use this Cerulean Blue hue. If you've got like a phthalo blue, you can just kind of tone it down a little bit with some white and a little bit of brown. And we're also going to use a little bit of light blue permanent, but you could just add white to that as well. So in nature, as you get closer to the horizon, the sky actually turns kind of a lighter blue. So we're going to use some of the pure cerulean blue up top, and then we're going to blend in some light blue permanent going down to the peaks of these mountains. We don't have a ton of sky in this painting. The majority is taken up by everything else here, and so I'm not even going to really worry about clouds too much. I'm just going to do a little bit of a sky piece here. So I'm going to take some of this here, put it down on the palette. A little bit of each of those. And I'm just going to take my large flat 1-inch brush here, just so I can cover the space quicker. And on some of my previous tutorials, I had people comment and kind of be shocked at how little water I use. I don't really like using water personally because I find it waters down the paint. And then when you're trying to go through and blend things later, or really just anything there, then I find that it just waters it down, and then sometimes the water lifts the paint off of the canvas when you're trying to blend it, and it just doesn't really work for me. But for some, they have awesome techniques with it, and it works great. Alright, so I just did a little bit of this blue here, cerulean blue. Now I'm going to take some of this light blue. I didn't even rinse off my brush or do anything with my brush. You can if you'd like, but you don't have to. Now, blending, different artists will have different tricks for you as well. What I like to do, I am going to wipe this off a little bit now. Use this one. what I like to do with blending is, if you're starting with your lighter color, grab your lighter color, work it into where you know start down here, like where you know it's just going to be that pure color, and then work your way slowly back up into the other color while it's still wet if you can. So I'm going to grab just this pure lighter blue here. I just made sure I filled in all those spaces where I want just that light blue. And now I'm doing just broad horizontal strokes, as you can see, but I'm just working my way back into the blue that's there, going all the way to the top, and then you can go from the top and come all the way back down. If you want to, you can wipe off your brush to get any, if you feel like it's too dark still, which I feel like I could add a little bit more of that lighter blue. Wipe off your brush, grab some more of that lighter blue, apply it on, and then just do that same thing over again. We're just doing nice horizontal strokes. Alright. And that's pretty much all we're going to do for the sky there. It's just going to be a nice blue sunny day. The last couple of tutorials I've done, one was a sunrise scene, so there was a lot of different colors going on in the sky. And then the one previous to that was a winter. It was a very kind of foggy scene, so there wasn't much color in the sky. So I wanted to just do a regular kind of sunny day, blue sky, and yeah, go from there. So now we're going to move into our mountains. So just like the theory for our whole painting here, moving background to foreground, we're going to start that same way with our mountains here as well. So I'm just going to do a background color on these mountains. You can see I've drawn in here kind of a sketch of what I'm doing. Sorry, I should have said that at the very beginning as well. You can take some time to sketch just a little bit. I spent about 10 minutes last night just kind of sketching this out. Too much time on these canoes down here. The rest of it didn't take too long. I'm going to paint over some of these lines. I'm going to leave some of them kind of open just slightly, just so I remember where they are. Now mountains, underneath, there are often kind of a purpley blue, and so that's what we're going to go for here. So you could mix your own purple, just using red and blue. I've got some brilliant purple that's already mixed here, and so I'm just going to use a little bit of this. But yeah, you can, as you know, you can easily mix purple with just red and blue. You can add some brown to it to make it darker. I'm going to try adding just a little bit of this Payne's gray. This is kind of just like a really dark blue gray if you've never used it before. And I'm just going to mix a little bit of these two together here, just kind of see what we get. It's not bad. I actually just need a little bit more. Alright, so with that really dark purpley gray, or even more slightly blue, I guess I could say, we are going to use that here. And I'm just going to literally just box in where these mountains are going to be. And I'm going to leave, sometimes in between some of these spaces, I'm going to leave just a little bit of space just for myself. You don't have to do that, just so I remember kind of where the different breaks in the mountain are, and I'm not getting lost at all. Sorry, I'm kind of lifting that up a little bit too much on you. I'm just going to turn this here, just so I can get a better angle here at where I want this mountain peak to be. I've done a few different renditions of this painting, or not of this painting, of this place. So I feel like I know these mountains almost like the back of my hand now. I've only been there a couple of times personally. This painting is based off of a photo that I took in 2019. Sorry, I'm just gonna have this up here just for a second because I can get a better view of where those pencil lines are in here. Okay. I'm just going to turn it this way just for a second. I like to turn, when I'm using small canvases, I turn them around all the time because I find, well, just being right-handed, if I want to get a nice edge on a certain spot, then I like to turn it so that edge is opposite of me there, so I can easily go in and paint that over. And if you're getting things where there's texture underneath there, you're not kind of brushing it out nice and smooth, that's totally fine, because we're just going to be adding a ton of texture to this in just a few minutes here. And this is just our base layer. We're just blocking it in. That's all we're doing here. If you've been painting for a while and you're tackling this one, thank you for joining me today. If you're brand new to painting and this is your first one, good on you. If you have any extra questions throughout or anything like that, please feel free to leave a comment or send me a message, brian@briansloanartist.com, to ask me any questions that you might have. I'm more than happy to help and try to answer those questions as best I can. Okay, so there's just our basic form in there. Actually, I do need to add a little bit over here as well, but for that, I'm going to take What do we got here? Sorry, I'm just kind of double checking things. I don't want it to just taking some more of that Payne's gray. Just for fun, I'm going to try adding just a little bit of this red to it. Oh, sorry, that red's just out of camera view. That's too red there. So normally when you're painting mountains, well, not normally, when you're painting mountains that are further away, you can start to use blue in them to show a distance, and kind of just more clear or warmer as they're closer. This mountain range is all very close in what we're doing, so that's why I'm just doing them all the same. I'm not worried about changing the tone of them too much here. These very close mountains over here, though, have much more brown tinge to them than the further back ones do, so I'm just going to use a little bit of raw umber. It's just a dark brown. And mix some of that together with what we've already been using. And even what's on the brush too, that's fine. Again, just going to turn this so I can get a nice edge here. Now if you notice that you kind of missed any spots or want to go in and add anything in anywhere, I'm just going to get a little bit more down here and just mix a tiny bit more here. Like on the edge of this mountain peak here, I noticed I didn't really finish that off very nicely. Just adding a second layer to some of this as that first layer is drying, just to make it a bit darker in some spots here. Alright, we got that in there. I'm going to rinse this brush off. I'll be done with this one just for a little bit here. Now, if you want to, you can make sure that's dry before you move on, but you don't have to. We're going to start adding in a little bit of texture to these mountains. So I'm going to put down a little bit of titanium white. And we'll keep on using kind of just what we already have here. We have a little bit of red, we have some Payne's gray, we have some purple. Again, if you don't have Payne's gray, just pretty much make a mix of blue with a black, and it'll get you a really dark gray. It looks darker than what it is when you're starting here, and you can just use that as your Payne's gray. Or if you just have a purple, a dark purple that you've already mixed, just add some more blue to it and just make it even darker. So I'm going to take a little bit of this Payne's gray here, take a little bit of this purple, take a little bit of that red, mix it in, take just a hint of white. We're just making a slightly lighter shade here. And I'm going to use a fan brush. I would recommend, if you don't have a fan brush, some type of bristle brush. You know, you can see these thick bristles. Sorry, you cannot see that. Nice bristles there. The reason being is these bristles create very nice texture. You can use other types of brushes, but I just find that, like I said before, these ones just really bring in a nice texture too. So you want to look at the mountains and you want to see where you want to add this texture. So I'm just going to get some of this on the ends of this brush here and just start kind of dabbing in, literally just dabbing in where I want this texture to be added to. And so for here on the mountain, for example, there's kind of a cliffside that looks very vertical. So I'm going to just change this to be a vertical motion there. And that's adding some nice texture into this mountain. Same with up here. It looks very vertical. That's one strategy you can do when you're adding in texture. Another one that I've seen before, and actually Bob Ross does it, is he will go from his darkest highlights then to his lightest highlights, then add the medium ones in. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you can just go in and grab some white, because we're going to add some snow to these mountains. Grab some white and you can add in this snow onto the mountain wherever you're going to be adding any of the snow. So I'm going to be having snow coming down here in between those two mountains and down into this bottom part a little bit here. So this photo I took back in 2019, I said, and it was actually back in June of 2019, and there was still a decent amount of snow going on here. I feel like sometimes in June there's actually more than what there was, but this is how much snow was in my photo that I'm adding on to this painting for us today. And there are going to be a few random spots where there is a bit of snow, and that's great. And if your painting is still wet underneath with that darker color, it's just going to mix in with the snow color that you're adding and just create kind of more depth in that sense as well, which is totally fine, because we can always go in and add more snow to it later if we need. So what do we got here? We got a little bit of snow on cliff line right there. And then I'm just going to turn this. Sorry, I've kind of had my canvas tilted on you there. But we've got snow right up towards the peak. And in between these crevices here, just below there, I'm going to add some other layers in here as well, not just all snow, but we'll add some other layers in throughout there as well. We got some right in here. Up in there. And these back mountains just have some kind of sprinkled throughout these ridges here as well. So I'm just going to be adding this in here. Alright, so just by adding in those really light highlights in there, you can already really start to see the mountain take shape how you would like. And again, I'm going to go back in and adjust some of these light layers and probably retouch them up, because as I work through the rest of it here, I'm going to, well, just not accidentally, I'm going to cover some of them up just by dabbing through, and so I know I'm gonna have to retouch some of those layers again, and you don't have to be too worried about that. Just making sure I got at least a base layer where I want it for all of these. Which I think I do. So now with that same brush, I'm just going to mix in a little bit of white. Well, I'll keep on using this same brush here. And just going to make a medium highlight. So now it's just a little bit lighter. And we'll use that in the mountain here again to kind of create some texture. So this is a lighter medium highlight, and again I'm trying to just kind of keep the flow of my brush in the direction that I want those rocks to be looking like they are lined up, I guess I could say. And you do want some parts to be left darker. You don't want to cover up that whole darker layer that you added at the beginning, because that if you cover that all up, it'll take away from the depth that it creates, right? That texture that it creates. So we don't want to cover that whole thing up. We just want to accent it, you could say. And with nature paintings, you got to keep in mind where your light source is. Where is the sun? So in our case here, I'm saying the sun is coming over from this side, so the edges of these mountains here that are in the sun are going to be lighter than some of the parts on the inside that are in the shade, just from the mountain itself, right? Okay, I'm going to grab a bit more white here. And kind of add a little bit more just a little bit more lighter highlights right on the edges of these mountains to really show, you know, that's the edge, this is where the sun is. And we're getting some awesome looking mountains here. This is going good. If you want to add a bit more brown to it, if you feel like they're too dark, that is definitely something you can do. I'm going to add a little bit of brown to them right here. Still leaving, I didn't even take anything off my brush there. I left that light purpley gray that I was using on the brush, and I actually like what that is doing to my mountains there, so I'm just going to take a little bit more here. And I'm actually just going to mix it over here instead. Then we've just got some we can mess around with here. So I'm not drowning it in this brown color, but I feel like it's just adding a little bit of good texture to it as well. And I'm going to use this now on this very front part here, as well as just a little bit darker. It's almost a darker brown there. And again, this is just creating a nice texture for us. That's all we're doing here. Make sure every once in a while you just kind of stop, take a look at it, see where you need to adjust things. I feel like on mine, sorry, I'm just going to lift this up slightly here. I just want to adjust the peaks of these mountains just a little bit. I feel like I kind of lost this peak here. Well, I never really had it. And same with this one, I feel like it needs to be up a little bit more and down. And if you feel like you went through and you are missing too much of the dark highlights now, you can always go back through with that darker color and do exactly what we just did to kind of revitalize some of those dark highlights that you may have lost if you went too hard on it there. So don't feel like you can ever go back and fix things like that. You can definitely do that. Alright, so for that top piece there, just going to add a little bit of dark texture to them first. Need a little bit more white down here. Don't need much. Sorry, I keep on lifting this up on you. Take a bit more purple and a little bit more white. Okay, now I feel like that's pretty good. What I want to do is just touch up the snow, your lightest highlights. If you don't have snow, just whatever your lightest highlights are, because I've kind of covered up quite a bit of wherever that snow is actually on the mountain here. But by going through and I like the word revitalizing this morning, so revitalizing that to that color, then it'll really make that snow pop and the rest of the mountain kind of pop as well here. And down here where I have snow, you can't really tell yet because it's just white, but once I add kind of a color underneath of it there and add that snow layer back on top down in here, that'll really make that be a lot brighter as well. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just dragging a little bit of the snow as well, and kind of in the directions that I want those mountain valleys to look like they're moving. And that adds just a little bit to it as well. And again, if you feel like you lost too much of that dark, I'm just going to go in and just add a little bit of dark in a couple of spots here. Alright, just going to rinse this off. Set that to dry. Okay, I have to take a little break because I have to get ready for work. But you'll just see a blip in the camera. We'll come back, we'll finish off the bottom parts of these mountains, then we'll work into the trees from there. Hope you enjoyed it this far. Leave me a comment if you have. Alright, I'm back, so I'm going to start moving into the bottom of these mountains here. So right in here, it's kind of a shale that is actually there, so we're going to get some of this yellow oxide. You could use a yellow ochre, you could use a regular yellow and mix it with a little bit of brown and white. I'm going to be mixing this with a little bit of white to kind of mute that color a little bit and create a couple of different shades. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this yellow oxide here, a little bit of white, I know that doesn't look that different, we'll make it a little bit lighter. Just going for a couple different shades here. So I got one kind of medium and one lighter there. And I'm just going to use my little 1/4 inch flat brush here. I'm going to take this darker first here and just kind of brush this in. And it's obviously not this saturated of a yellow, but for the sake of the painting, I like kind of enhancing the colors a little bit. As you could probably already tell with the sky is very, very blue today. And this color is going to come right up into here. And on these, on the part where it's connecting with that snow, I'm just dabbing it in to create more of that texture that we're kind of using with the rest of the mountain. And we might not see it that much up in here afterwards, but that's okay. I'm just going to dab a little bit in there. And I'm going to bring a little bit over in here too. Now I'm going to take the medium one that I made there. And again, we're just dabbing it in there, excuse me, for some actual texture going through here. And we'll take that lightest one now. I'm just gonna wipe this off. Then I'm just gonna take some of this white that I had there and just kind of go over top of the parts where they cross over, just because technically the snow is on top of the shale is not on top of the snow, and I just want that to be apparent. Alright. Okay, now you can rinse that brush off if you'd like. And we'll dry that off there. So I'm going to move into the trees now. And for that, we want a really dark background on these trees before we go in and add any detail. And that's going to be a little bit back here as well. We have some trees back there as well. So I'm using a Hooker's Green Hue Permanent. It's just a dark green. I'm going to start with this. And with that, I'm just going to be mixing in well, basically some black. Again, I know a lot of people don't like using black in nature paintings. You could use a dark brown and mix it through if you would like, but I'm just going to use some here. So I'm just making a really, really dark green, as you can see there. And we're just going to take this dark green here. Oh, I got it mixed in a little bit with that yellow ochre. That's okay. And we're just going to spread it in this area here. Along the edges, I'm just going to dab it in. But along the rest of it, I'm just going to paint it in. Brush it in, I guess you could say. I'm just going to turn this for myself here. Actually, sorry, I need to leave it there like that just for a minute. And we need to do right up here as well. So if trees were further away than what these ones are right here, I would add some more blue to this darker color and then blue to the trees that I'm actually putting on. But these trees aren't that further away than the ones in the front here. You know, a few 100 meters maybe, if that. And so I'm just going to be making them basically the same color here. I'm not worrying too much about having them be different. So now just along the edges here, I'm just gonna go in and just dab this in, and this is just gonna help with that transition between them, kind of take away that harsh line, so that it doesn't show through later either, because we don't want that harsh line. And even on this far side you can do that too. And there actually even is some trees kind of coming over into here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of green kind of over into there as well. Alright, so we got that blocked in now. Now our next step is just kind of moving into the different colors of green that we want in there. And so I'm just going to take a new palette knife here. I know it looks dirty, but it's not right now. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber, some of that down there, and we'll take some of this green here, take some of this raw umber, just making a nice dark green. Okay, that's good. Actually, I don't need this one anymore for what I'm doing, so I'm just going to rinse this one off over here. You know, the thing I've learned most about painting is everybody has their own technique, and many techniques work great. Just find what works best for you, find what you like, and just go with that. I've learned little things here and there from a bunch of different artists and just kind of chosen what I like, and it works for me, and that's what I go with. Don't feel like you need to do everything a certain way or everything away like a certain artist. Do things how you like. So I'm going to take my fan brush now, and we're going to get some on here. And because these trees are so tall, I'm just going to keep these strokes vertical. And I'm just going to go in and dab this green throughout here. Obviously not covering up the whole thing. We don't want to cover up the darker layer that we did, but we want to go over top of it. And this is just adding in, you know, that little texture of the trees here. And you know, at a few certain spots, go a little bit higher. You know, add a little bit of irregularity to it. Trees aren't perfect in nature. And if you really want to add a few individual trees, you can take your small little round one there. And with this guy, you can go in and add a few things throughout if you'd like. So if you haven't noticed already, I like painting with nice bright colors, whether that be in the sunset, whether that be just colors in a mountain. We're using a nice bright yellow here, bright blue. Now we're going to get into a nice green here for the rest of these trees. Alright, that's good. Okay. So I'm going to add a bit more of this green in here. And I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to take a little bit of white. Just in the same spot, I'm just going to mix this in. I'm just going to take some of this green. Take a hint of white, take the rest of this brown, mix it together here. Just gonna wipe off this brush. I'm not gonna wash it off, just wipe it off. It's fine. Now we'll take this new green that we have, and we'll do the exact same thing that we just did. I'm just going to tilt it up a little bit more so I can look at it. Okay, I do like where I'm at right now. Just going to add some more white to this and kind of see what I think. Yeah, I think I'll add one more little layer here of this stuff. Not quite as thick, but just a little bit. If you ever noticed, yeah, pine trees are they aren't quite as bright of a green as some other trees that have a lot of leaves on them. They kind of have a more muted green highlight to them as well, so that's what we're going to add in here. All right, I think we're good there for those trees as of now. So I'm going to just rinse this brush off. Dry it off there. Okay, now we're going to move into the lake. We're getting towards the end here. So for the lake, got a couple of different colors I'm going to use. I've got a turquoise blue. So if you've ever been to Moraine Lake or Lake Louise, any of those mountain lakes up there, they are very, very turquoise. They're quite stunning. So I'm going to use turquoise blue. I'll probably use a little bit of the cerulean blue that I used in the sky, maybe a little bit of the light blue permanent here as we work through, and we'll use some bright aqua green. We'll kind of go through those two here and see how it goes. Yeah, let's just get at it. And for the lake, I'm going to use back to this 1/4 inch flat brush. If it was a bigger surface, then I'd use a bigger one, but this lake isn't, on this canvas, it's not very big here. So, I'm going to start with this darker turquoise blue, add a little bit. And I'm not really doing a reflection in this one here. I'll do I don't know what to call it, a faded reflection, I guess you could say. Like underneath of these trees here and kind of moving into this way, I'll make it just a darker blue than what I'm working with over here. Just gonna turn this sideways for me as I'm working along this edge. I guess that means I do want it a bit lighter out on this side here, so I'm just gonna mix in some of that bright aqua green in here. And again, just keeping them kind of nice horizontal strokes. And if you've been to Moraine Lake on a really calm day, it is quite stunning, the color of that water. I'm going to try just, I'll turn that back there. I'm going to try a little bit of white. Just in a few spots, if you want, you can grab a little bit of white. Mix it in there. So I'm just taking a little bit of white here as it's more towards like where the sky would be reflected. Just working my way through it. Okay. Now, I don't know if I have any there still. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber. Just a hint of it there. I'm just going to wipe off that brush. Now I'm going to take the turquoise blue here that I was working with. I'm probably going to end up covering up these canoes. I wonder if I should draw over them. Ah, no, that's fine. So if you've worked fast enough, and your colors haven't dried yet, then you should be able to just, like that, go horizontal strokes, and it blends right into what you were doing there before. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this raw umber and just mix a little bit of that right into what I'm working with here, just to make it a little bit darker underneath of that shoreline. Do that same thing again. Add just a hint of green to it. I will add some of this lighter. Okay, I'm gonna rinse that off actually real quick here, just to get that darker, the darker colors off of it here. Dry it off. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of this, just pure. Okay, I'm going to mix a little bit of the other stuff in it here, and just a hint of white. And just smooth out the border between these two here. Sorry, I'm just holding it up just for a second, just so I can get a better angle at it. I'm just trying to go a little bit lighter on it and just kind of feather those sides together here. All right, beautiful. Okay, now what I'm gonna work on here, I can actually rinse that off again. I got the lake color on there. Now I'm just gonna go in with my fine brush here. Just gonna turn this sideways just for myself. Just taking some of this brown and some of that yellow ochre mix that we had from earlier. And I'm just gonna go along the shoreline here. and just adding a little shoreline to it that you can see on the other side of the lake. It doesn't have to be detailed. It doesn't have to be very thick, but just adding a little bit into there. Now I'm going to do that same thing, but right on here, I'm going to add a little bit of green to that too. And this one I'm going to go just a little bit into the water at spots. Sorry, I just need to look at this a little bit closer here. Taking a little bit of black there too, just to make it a little bit darker. I'm going to do a couple of layers on this one. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'm sorry. Just for the angle, I need to hold it like this just for a minute. And then you can take the lighter brown that we were working with over here. And I'm just kind of lightly dabbing it in to certain spots here. All right. So you can see with that darker shade in there, we've just kind of created that shadow that's on the water, and we didn't actually do a full reflection onto it. Okay, one of our last steps moving through here now is adding the little dock, kind of coming out right into here, and then the few canoes coming off of that as well. So for the dock, I'm just going to be using the raw umber with with some black to get started here, and we'll just draw that out onto the water. And then we'll add a little bit of lighter brown on top, probably just some burnt umber instead. And then we'll go in and add a few canoes as well. So you can stick with this little guy if you want, or you can go with a larger one. I'm just going to go with a larger one just to cover that space a little bit faster. And water's pretty much dry now, so it shouldn't really lift any of the paint off as we're working through it. If it does start to lift it, just let it dry a little bit more before you move into that. So I'm just gonna see. No, I can't really see my drawing anymore. So I know I've tilted this up a little bit. I'll just sit up a little bit higher for you. I'm just going to add this in here. And again, if you've been painting with me this whole time, you know I like to turn my canvas to get a better angle at some of these ones right here. So that's kind of the bottom of it, but then I do want to add more along the top. Okay, take just some of that raw umber. Work it into this top area here. So I just took some of this light color that we were working with before, and I'm just going to add some of that into the top of this. And we'll rinse that off here. Now, unfortunately, I have to take a break. I gotta go get ready for work. So when I come back, we'll finish the canoes on there, and that will pretty much be it. Alright, so as you know, I took a step away, but now I'm back. We are going to finish this one up here. So we're going to be working into the canoes now, and then the reflections of the canoes, the dock, and then any final touches or finishing touches that we need to add. So for the canoes, you can make them any colors you want. If you've been to Moraine Lake before, you'll know that they have different colors of canoes. At Lake Louise, they're all red. But at Moraine Lake, they've got blue, they've got orange, they've got red, they've got green. So I'm just going to choose some bright colors here. I'm going to use a nice red. I think I'm going to add in a nice orange there as well. I might just tint this one down just slightly. It's a little bright. And then I'm going to use also a cobalt blue here. You could use like an ultramarine blue as well. That would look really nice. And maybe I will find an ultra. I don't have an ultramarine blue in these Liquitex basics, but I do have it in another brand here. I might try that. An ultramarine blue is just more of kind of a purpley blue. See if I can find one here. There it is. There we go. I've got a Winsor & Newton one here. But again, you can make these canoes any color you'd like. And so I've got four of them here. I think I'll make 2 of them red, and then opposites of the other ones. I'll just do a red and a red alternating, and then the other 2 I'll do an orange, I think out here, and a blue in here. It's not too big of a deal here. Put a little bit of red down. That's probably way too much for what I need. I'm going to use just this fine brush here and grab a little bit on here. I redrew in pencil here just before I turn the camera back on, kind of where I want the canoes to be. So I'm just going to turn mine again as I'm working with these edges that I'm trying to reach. I find it easier as I'm right-handed to keep the edge on the opposite side of me. So that is what I'm going to do. Sorry, I'm just trying to see where I put that pencil line there. I didn't draw it very thick, just in case I needed to erase it. And now from certain angles, it's actually kind of hard to see. So with a bright color like this, I'm probably going to end up applying 2 layers to it. Sorry, just bear with me here for 1 second. Okay, now I'll bring this back down so you can see it better. So yeah, I'm probably going to end up applying 2 layers to it just because with the dark colors that I have behind it, to get a really opaque color without, mixing a little bit of white maybe with it or anything like that, it's going to take just a couple of layers here. So as one is drying, I'll work on the next one. By the time I'm done the other one, the first one should be dry, and so on and so forth. So we'll do the second to last one there, red as well, we said. Or should I do that end one red and the middle 2 different ones? Yeah, I think we'll do that. Let's do the end one red. Red is kind of an iconic color for the canoes up in this area. As I mentioned before, all the ones at Lake Louise are all red. As that is Canada's color. And yes, I am a proud Canadian. Okay, I'm going to have this one move in here. There we go, it comes right up into there. And I'm just going to turn it this way, just so it's a little easier on myself here. Alright, first layer done. If I touch the other red, I'm getting a little bit off of it still, but not a whole lot. So quite a bit of this first layer on this other one is dry. So I'm going to go in, brush in a second layer here. Yeah, I put way too much red out on my palette, but that's okay. Waste not, want not. Does not apply to this situation, but that's okay. Because I'm definitely wasting a little bit of red here in the end. I hope you don't mind me turning it around there. Kind of working on it at an angle. I'm not doing anything special right now. I'm just literally adding in that second layer of red. Okay, go back to the other red one here. Do that same thing, especially that part that is overlapping with the dock area. That really needs a good second coat, possibly a third coat. If you're still painting along with me here, I'd love to hear your story, why you started painting or creating art in general. I always find it interesting why people are motivated to start For me, it was I wanted something to do inside in the cold, dark winters when I was in university. Okay, we got our basic layers in there. I might still need to add a little layer afterwards, but that's okay. I'm going to let that kind of dry here now. I'm just going to wipe this brush off. I'm not going to rinse it off yet. I don't really feel like I need to, because the next color I'm going to be using is just this orange. So it's just a bright orange. Again, way too much orange. It's Cadmium Orange Hue, if you're wondering. And we'll do this second to last one over here, this orange color. So again, I'm turning my canvas over. And yes, I was just going to say, if you've ever painted with orange, most oranges, well, especially hues like this one is, are very transparent, unfortunately. And so this guy is going to take a few solid layers of build up to get that orange color that I really want on here. Just going to turn this again. And sorry, I just need to tilt this up a little bit. This one is going right up. I have it going right up into here. Okay, first layer on. As I said, that orange is going to take a little bit more to it. If I did add, a little bit of titanium white to it, or a little bit of yellow even, that might make it not quite so transparent, but I'm not too worried about it. We'll let it run its course. Ultramarine Blue that I'm using here is also a little bit transparent. It's going to take a couple of layers here as well. Let's see if I can put, oh, that one comes out fast. I don't even know if you can see. Oh yeah, you can see just the edge of it there. So take some of this ultramarine blue. It's not quite as transparent as that orange. That orange is pretty transparent there. Just kind of going off my pencil line a little bit there, because I feel like this one needs to be angled just a bit more to kind of match the other ones that we have. Okay, just gonna make the tip of this one just a bit more defined. Okay, I'm gonna rinse that off. Sorry, just wipe that off. When the brush is this small, a whole lot of paint doesn't get on it in the first place. And so just by wiping it off, it usually does enough for what I need here. Alright, so you can see the second layer of the orange is going on quite a bit better here. But I think for your sake, I'm just going to fast forward from here on. Because I'll be doing another layer of orange in a minute. Another layer of blue, orange, blue, again, just to kind of finish off and get these colors nice and bright. So I'll do a little time lapse here for you so you don't have to sit through this and watch me just do some layers. Alright, I'm still going to need one little layer of orange on there. Maybe another one of blue, but I need to let it completely dry before adding another layer so it's a bit more opaque on there. So for the insides of these canoes, if you've seen these canoes before, the inside is just a light gray. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of black. And just make a light gray. Now when you're making a light gray, what I should say is black is very powerful, so start with just a little bit of black, working in with that white. You can always add a tiny bit more black, but you have to add a lot of white to get back to anything else. And already that's pretty much the gray I'm looking for. But I'm just kind of thinking here, is that the color I want for these canoes? Not all canoes are this color on the inside. The ones at this lake are, but a lot of other canoes are tan on the inside, and I think that's what I want to do instead. So I'm going to put a little bit of this yellow oxide down that we were using before. You can use yellow ochre. You can add, if you have just yellow and some brown, that'll do it as well. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this white here, and I think I'm going to add just a little bit of brown to it as well, just to mute it and give it a bit more of a brown color. Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for, something more like that. At least for the red canoes, I think I want that. For the other two canoes, I think I will use the gray. So, get my brush ready here. Take some of this on it here. And again, just moving that over here. And we'll do the same on this red one over here as well. Okay. Now I'll take some of that gray and use that for the orange canoe here. That. And we'll do the same for the blue one here as well. That one off. Okay, I'm going to go back in with this orange now, and hopefully this will be good enough. Oh yeah, that's looking much better now. And I'm gonna just actually add a tiny bit of white here to this ultramarine blue that I've been using. And use that for my last layer here on this blue. Yeah, that's much better. Just makes it a bit more opaque. And the pure ultramarine blue is a little bit dark actually for what I needed, and so this makes that color a little bit brighter, which is nice. Sorry, I've been moving this around a ton. It's just important for me to get the angle I need when doing this detail work. When I'm working on larger paintings on an easel and I need to move around it, doing detail stuff, it kind of looks funny sometimes. Alright, so I'm going to try one other thing here quick, just again with a little bit of white. I'm going to do that, what I just did right there, but with the orange. I'm going to need a new palette knife here. Grab this one out here. Just going to take a little bit of white here. Mix that in. And we'll do that same thing now, but with the orange. There's a little bit of blue left on there. I'm just going to rinse that off. All right. There we got our 4 canoes lined up. Now what we need to do is add little shadows underneath, and shadow / reflections, and a little bit on the dock right over here as well. So for that, I'm going to take this turquoise blue that I was using before, kind of the darker blue that I'd been mixing in there to begin with. I'm going to take a little bit of yeah, gonna put a little bit of this raw umber, this dark brown out there. Now what I want to do is, with each of them, I'm going to take a little bit of those colors to put underneath. So I'm going to just start with this ultramarine blue because I have some on this palette knife here. Put a little bit of that right there. Going to grab some of this, mix that in there, take some of this dark brown, mix that in there as well. A little more ultramarine blue. Okay, now I'm just going to take, I don't need a big brush. What do I have up here? Just going to take a small round one here, and I'm going to get it wet. Just put a little bit of water on there. Take some of that color, wash it out a little bit, and I'm just going to lightly apply some of that here underneath of this canoe. And I'm going to go right up onto it there. And I feel like it can even be a bit darker at some spots there. Especially right up against the base of it. I feel like, I know this is faux pas, but I'm going to take, actually I have a little bit of black still on there. Just a hint of black in one moment here. I'm just going to stroke this out just a little bit further here. But right up against where that boat meets the water, I just want it to be just a bit darker. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna, I want to try that same thing now, but I'm gonna grab a little bit of this orange and mix this in here, just so it's a little bit more color concentrated with what color we're actually dealing with here. So again, I'm gonna grab just a bit of water to put down here, mix that in there, and again just kind of brush it in just underneath this orange canoe. Take a little bit of the lighter. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of red. Sorry, this is probably hard for you to see. I apologize. I'm not doing very good right now showing you what's going on. I'm just going all the way up to the edge there, even along the dock as well. Now I do want a little bit lighter here. That's too light. I need some of this bright aqua green back out here. Not a whole lot, just a bit. Just get a little dab of water again here. Just drying that off. I got too many other colors going on it at the moment. Just taking some of that pure bright aqua green. Sorry, I had to double check what that name was. Kind of brushing it back into these spots here. And in turn, that is also kind of blending it out. Just nice and light brush strokes. Now I'm going to do that same thing, but I'm just going to take some of that dark brown, a little bit of black, make an even darker brown blue there, and I'm just going to use that right along the shoreline up here. Sorry, I'm trying to show you what I'm doing, but I just like holding my canvas so much here. Just lightly brushing that in. Alright, so if there's any spots that you feel like you need to go in and adjust, now is a good time to do that. I'm going to rinse this brush off here. If you feel like you are finished, like you got everything done that you need, that's great. I'm just doing one more kind of check over, looking at things. Do I want to adjust anything, or do I like where it's at? Pretty bold colors in there, which I really like. That's kind of what I was going for here. I think we're going to call it there. I think that's all we're going to do. The only thing I was thinking of is sometimes along the shoreline I'll add little I'll just show you. Let's just do it. Alright, and the last step I'm going to do here is just going to take a little bit of white here. It's going to be mixed with a tiny bit of this wow, I'm losing it. Turquoise blue. Sorry, I always start sentences and then I stop them. Just putting that heavy on the brush there, and just very, very lightly with my fan brush, I'm just going to do little, or kind of not horizontal, but diagonal strokes along the shoreline here to kind of show as if there's, you know, ripples coming up along the shoreline over here. But just that can even be a little bit darker than what it is. And same with right here along this dock line too. And around these boats. Notice if the water's just a little bit disturbed beside each of them there. There we go, a little touch, but I do actually kind of like how that adds to it here. Alright, and our last thing that we need to do now is sign it. So this one, you got a big open space over here. You could sign it down here. You do usually sign it in the bottom right corner, but I feel like I've got a little bit too much going on over there, so I am going to do the bottom left. Just use a color that you've been using throughout in the painting. So I'm just going to be using a blue that goes in with the lake that I've got going on here. And for my signature, I usually just do my last name and the year. You can decide what works for you, and you don't have to stick with it. You can change it. I've tried a few different signatures as the times have gone on, but what I've ended up sticking with is just my last name and the year. Here we go. Got it signed there. If there's anything else you want to add to it, do that before you call it good. Wash off your brush and you are good to go. I appreciate you joining me here today. If you haven't checked out my other step-by-step painting tutorials, I encourage you to do so. Leave me some feedback or suggestions for future tutorials that you'd like to see, and we'll see you next time here on Brian Sloan Artist.